and welcome back to the Dublin Racing Festival preview 2021 on the Champ.ie podcast. We've the original band back together. Thomas Coyle is back with us for episode number 15 of the season. We've Ronan Groome from the Irish Field and the Vincinator, who's in red hot form, of course, with NBs and naps. Seems to be Mike nearly every week.
Yes, trouble is it's a long week. It's a long season, and it's where you are at the end of the season that matters.
Of course, Thomas Coyle, if you haven't checked out the 8 Points to Play blog that is available every Saturday morning, Thomas Coyle is, I think, in pole position there, Tom, and the blog is in profit for a second year in a row. I think we were plus 44 going into last week. Probably has dipped a little bit, but you're the man for the winners.
Yeah, last week was a tough one, but I think I just scraped back ahead of the champ there. So yeah.
Let's kick straight into the Dublin Racing Festival. We've plenty to get through. We're going to start with the 105 at Leopardstown on Saturday. It's the 2 mile and 6 furlong Nathaniel Lacey Novice Hurdle, Grade 1. Of course, as it stands at the moment, Willie looks like he's fired the two big guns in here. Gallard de Menil, Paul Townend up on him. He was a maiden winner, of course, at Christmas in the Donnelly Silks. Statler, who is favoured for the Albert Bartlett currently, but the betting is as follows: 2-1 Gallard de Menil, Statler to 1. Cape Gentleman, of course, for Emma Mullins is a 6-1 chance in here. Holy Macapony 9-1. Ashdale Bob for Paddy Kennedy, and Jessica Harrington. Of course, he fell last time in the Lawlers of Naas. Gentleman's Game is an interesting runner, I think, for Mouse Morris here, lads. He goes in here having won a maiden hurdle at, I think it was Cork, and of course Mouse's horses are in good form. Fakira looks like the trip will suit him as well. He's for Gordon Elliott. Jack Kennedy, of course, rides there. 12-1. Vanillier for Gavin Cromwell, 14-1. Ganna Patty, 16-1. 16-1 the rest. Thomas Coyle, take it away.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most competitive races of the weekend. As you said, Ashdale Bob, he fell the last day, but before that he won his Grade 2 in Navan, beating Fakira and Gabby Nacco. You were saying on Emmett's horse as well, Cape Gentleman, he cost 80,000 in Arcana, but he got that money back fairly quick after hosing up in the Irish Cesarewitch. I like him, but and he done well on his maiden hurdle win in Punchestown, but just that was 2.5 mile, and he's up another 2 furlongs. For me, he probably just wanted to settle a little bit better. He was, not that he was very keen or anything, but he was in Brian's hand most of the way. But he was very, very impressive visually again at the end. Another interesting one I had was does he run Shadow Rider? He won a point of
Shadow Rider's down there for JP, and WIllieMullins, 16-1 shot Shadow Rider.
Yeah, he won his point, and then he was off the track for I think 2.5 years, and he was third behind Ashdale Bob in his maiden hurdle. First time after such a long layoff, and then he came back to Limerick at Christmas, and he fairly dotted up. There could be any amount of improvement in him. He's a real dark horse in this, as a lot of the other horses have kind of been run against each other. So he's kind of the unknown in this race, and might take a chance on him at 5 or 6-1. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting, because Ronan Groome, I don't know what you think about the shape of this race, because it's hard to really know, I suppose, with the ground coming up soft. Like, there's horses in here that might go Ballymore, and there's other horses in here that might go Albert Bartlett. Do you think it might suit more to stay in here, especially with the ground the way it is? And Gallard de Menil looked like you could nearly drop him back to 2 miles after his maiden hurdle last day, where Statler, of course, looks like the further he goes, the better he's going to go. And then you come down to horses like Holy Macapony, that could be anything. You know, his form obviously bet Gallard de Menil originally, and Ashdale Bob, they look more stayers as well. It looks a deep race.
It looks a deep race, all right, Barry, and it looks a deeper race that you shouldn't really have a 5-2 favourite like you do in Gallard de Menil now. I do accept he was very impressive at Christmas, and he beat 2 horses that won next time out, Mr. Incredible and Magic Days, and he clocked a good time as well. And Paul Townend is riding him, so it all kind of comes together, given WIllieMullins has a lot of horses in this race. But I just think this is deep, and you can't really rule out any of them, to be honest. And Statler, I wasn't a huge fan of either. He got beaten by Vanillier earlier in the season, and while I accept he probably will probably progress for a step up and trip, I don't think his form is amazing, really. The one I thought was quite interesting, kind of just the way the race is. I kind of want to take a couple at bigger prices, and it's very interesting. Ganapathy runs here for Mullins and the Donnellys. Clearly, when they had the favourite for the race already, Ganapathy could have went the 2 mile route, could have went down and took on Appreciated there, but they're going to run him here. And I thought he was really interesting. He won at Cork back in December, I think it was, and he was actually recorded a time that was 6 seconds faster than Appreciated did later on the card. And then he went second in the Moscow Flyer, a race that Willie always likes, and the real deal just came in and nailed him late. But that was just his second start over hurdles. I think he's really interesting coming up in trip now, especially when they've already had the favourite for this race. And the other one, Thomas kind of mentioned there, I think Ashdale Bob is probably the most solid type. He fell early on in the Bob Ollinger race at Naas, but the horse that finished third in that race was Gabinacco, who was behind Ashdale Bob in the Grade 2 at Navan. So that suggests that Ashdale Bob probably would have went close enough to Bob Ollinger that day. Probably may not have won, but good solid Grade 1 form that he brings into this. Then if you take that line of form, but Ganapathy for me 16-1 was a huge price. I thought.
Mike, Vince, good horses in here. Did you come down on anything?
Couple that catch the eye. I mentioned this Gentleman's Game. Interesting that they've gone considerably up in trip. Liked him immensely when he won over 2 miles at Cork back at the start of January, and he goes in obviously with a good chance. But I wouldn't be crossing Vanilli off my list, particularly if you can get an each way price about him. Second at Limerick over nearly 3 miles in absolutely bottomless ground last time. This was the day after Limerick had been abandoned the day before. I mean, it was a squelch if ever there was one. But he won nicely before at Naas. I liked his run at Naas. And, I've heard quotes of 12-14s. I think he might be knocking good each way value. But as you say, to have it sort of 9-4, 5-2 about the favourite is very strange because there's any number of these with chances.
This was horses that went on to run in the Albert Bartlett. Boston Bob won this race. Latest exhibition last year, Commander of Fleet. All horses that have went on to run in Albert Bartlett. So I think it might maybe suit more of a stayer. And for that reason, I thought Ashdale Bob could be the most solid one here. I think 10-1 each way. It might be the value in here, whereas others have question marks maybe about the trip. I know Ashdale Bob hasn't got 2 miles and 6, but it looks like he would have absolutely no problem. I give him a second go. I think Gentleman's Game at 10-1 as well. He is interesting. As I said, Mouse is in great form, and this is a lovely horse. I know they like him. But again, similar profile to Gallard de Menil. Has just won a maiden at the end of the day. I think Ashdale Bob maybe might have that little bit more experience. So I'll chance Jesse's here at 10-1 each way. That's Ashdale Bob. Coming on, lads, to the second race we're going to preview at the Dublin Racing Festival. We're going to skip, by the way, the Chase, because I don't know, is anyone in disagreement that Shakan Poursois is the best horse in training, Mike Vince? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating that Min is in against him, but Min, to me, Min's going to be a Ryanair horse, isn't he? And he's over too short a trip. But Willie's getting a run into him. But let's not forget Notebook winning at this meeting last year, but Chacun Poursois looks to be the class act. Remember, it's a race that Willie will be badly wanting to win because it's the one big blank that he's got at Cheltenham is he's never won a champion chase.
No, I think this horse goes right the way to the top. We've discussed him plenty of times, especially in our Cheltenham preview videos. But Thomas Coyle, I'm coming to you. I'm looking straight down the camera at you. 2:10 at Leopardstown and Ergemine. 4-5. The ground has come up soft. Will suit. Unaccepted 9-2 in here. Captain Guinness 15-2. Franco de Port, WIllieMullins, who was a winner at Christmas over 2 miles. Brian Cooper retains the ride there at 9-1. Darver Star is 11-1. Chance Embittered 20-1, but I left out Felix Stagey, who's also in here at 11-1. Thomas Coyle and Ergemine, has he proved you wrong, or does he still have a lot more to do to get your?
Yeah, look, he was very impressive the last day. He gave Captain Guinness a bit of a hiding now, and you couldn't really see him reversing that at all now. So you kind of have to look elsewhere. Darver Star, since he's gone chasing, kind of looks like he wants a bit further. I don't know what you think, but to me, I'd say he wants 2.5 mile. So then you've Franco Deport. He done it well. He stayed out well over 2 mile the last day as well. Off the good pace that Darver start set. Look, I'm not going to talk about your famous horse because I know you're going to be all the bells and whistles on him here, but just one down at the bottom as well. He's probably a big price, but remember we had talked about him a couple of times last year, Ronan. Unexpected. He was very good. I think he won in Ferryhouse's maiden hurdle, didn't he? And then he went to Limerick at Christmas, and I think Patrick might have even rode him. But I think he was odds on. But Gordon Easy Work bet him. You know, we bet him well, but I think Disco Ramos ended up being third, and he was well bet as well. He came back.
I think he's had issues. Tom, with bleeding.
Obviously, a very tricky horse to get right because he won his beginner's chase in Tipperary. That's the race that Captain Guinness pulled up in early. Didn't jump well and pulled up, but look, he I think he came from France as well, didn't he, Ronan? Originally. But look, yeah, he's obviously a tough horse to train. But if they can get it right, there obviously is something there. Remember that day he won in Fairyhouse? He was visually impressive. But he could be something. Look, and Ergoname's probably he's the one to beat. What's run between, as I said, Darver Star I think wants further. Probably Franco Deport as well wants further in my mind.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you kind of have to look at something different. So maybe he could be a dark horse in this as well, but yeah, they all have to go to beat an Ergoname. So hopefully he might get bet in Cheltenham, so you won't have to listen to Barry Doyle for the next 12 months picking another Arkle winner.
Cool. Well, I've clips of you, Thomas Coyle, and Andrew Blair White for that matter. I haven't released them yet. We're waiting. We'll let the horse do the talking. But no, listen. I think he's really, really could serve it up to Shiskin. Interesting listening to Willie, just even his description of the horse. Like, you could see his jumping. That's obviously his strongest asset, like down the back. And even when he did make his debut over 2.5 miles, from looking at that, you're thinking, God, he's when they drop this horse back to 2 miles. But listen to Willie, he obviously came from the point-to-point field, but he's a unit. Was the word Willie used to describe. And urge, I mean, listen, I just hope he goes and gets it done now. I hope he, does the talking on the track. It's like his times were good, as we said, Ronan. And like, is there anything in here that you can see? Mike, I'll come to you on it. Like, what is there anything in here at a bigger sort of price? Because I know you like these big prices, especially against an odds-on favourite, where you're going to get more runners.
I would say that the one thing that would have worried me is if the track had come up quick, as it has done in the past. I think the vital thing, the reason why I don't think the favourite will get beat is because the ground has come up for him. Willie was making the point when we were speaking in the week about it. I'm afraid I do actually like Franco Deport. I think there's nothing wrong with that form against Darver Star at Leopardstown over Christmas. And I think if he's 8 or 9 to 1, there's a look of a forecast bet about it. But as I said, particularly on the ground, and as you mean for me, and he's going to have it soft to make Shiskin earn his money at Cheltenham, but that's for another day. He is a soft ground horse. He's going to have his ground. Ticks all the boxes.
Can he give Shiskin a race if it came up? If soft was in the description?
I think he can, but I think it is absolutely imperative. And you've also got to remember, of course, two things. One, it'll be on the first day of Cheltenham. And secondly, Cheltenham will be at its most virgin in terms of ground, having lost both January meetings. And so the track won't have been raced on. And that's not good news for Energymin, because that probably might add a degree to its quickness. But trying to work out the weather forecast for next week is almost impossible, let alone next month.
We're getting plenty of rain now. I'll be doing the rain dance on the Monday night before Cheltenham, lads. Ronan, we'll come to you on this one, because the 2:45 at Leopardstown, the first big handicap on the card at the Dublin Racing Festival. And the horse here who's headed the market, I hope he doesn't go and win, because I put him up, and I would like his chances on better ground. I know the Grand Annual has come to the Tuesday at the Cheltenham Festival now. It's been moved from the Friday's card. But in Tukas is 6-1 in here for Joseph O'Brien. I think he's well handicapped off 138. Ipsen de Who is a 6-1 chance in here for Jigginstown. Pontavan, who ran a cracker, I thought, the last day. Danny Mullins up for WIllieMullins. Ran a cracker in, I think it was in the 2 mile race. The Dan Moore at Fairy House, 6-1 chance. Aramax, I think he got away on Gordon, did he, the last day? Winning his beginners at Fairy House, same day as Pontavan came second in the Dan Moore. He's a 13-2 chance. The Shunterell at Mullins, 13-2. Port Stanley, 11-1. Emily Moon, 12-1. Jan Matt, 14-1. Shoetime, 14-1. And Wave of the Sea also for Joseph is 16-1, a 16-1. The rest in here. Ronan, it's as competitive as you'd want it to be.
And just before I get into the race, I was just say to Mike, never ever bank on the chase course at Leopardstown coming up soft, because God knows what will happen between now and then. It's the best training course in the country. If you told me it was going to be yielding on Saturday, I wouldn't say it's 1,000,000 to 1. But that's where we'll see what happens, and I guess the weather is still broken up until then. Yeah, look, in Tukas, Barry, I know you like him. You ran fourth in that Dan Moore, but Pontavan, I thought, ran a huge race there. 2 places ahead of him, finished second. He was very interesting last season. He was running over 3 miles, and they dropped him back in trip this season. And I thought he ran a huge race when he was fourth in the St. Stephen's Day 2 mile handicap chase. He was miles back that day and flew home. I actually watched the race again there just before it came on, and Rachel Blackmore's mount fell in front of him, Jan Matt, and he kind of swerved that and then jumped over her when she was on the ground. It was actually quite smart, and he really flew home that day. And then again, he was held up at Fairy House and came through, and that race was running a really good time. Daily Tiger won that, and I just thought back here on soft ground at Leopardstown, the 2 miles, he's going to need a bit of luck because he's going to be held up again. But the soft ground 2 mile angle and kind of like might just bring his stamina into play. That's what I thought the problem was on St. Stephen's Day. He just got caught for a bit of toe before the straight. But I thought he was the most likely winner, and out of the kind of front 4 or 5 that are all kind of the same price, they're all around 6-1. I made him probably a couple of points shorter than those. The other one, just to give a quick shout to, is Epson de Who. He was in the Irish Arkle, but they've decided to come here because he's off a mark of 138, which looks pretty smart. If they thought he was good enough to get a Grade 1 entry, you may as well come here and run off your mark of 138 instead of blowing it in a Grade 1, running third or fourth. So he could be anything really. He's only had 3 starts, won his last 2 quite impressively. So they would be the 2 against the field for me, Barry.
I mentioned Pontavan. He's my selection in the race as well at 6-1 because, yeah, look, you'd have to look at Tukas as well, but I just think there's different days ahead for him. Could be completely wrong with that. Pulled hard, I thought, the last day in the Dan Moore. That was the thing I'd say about Pontavan, and he's come back significantly from the trips he's been racing at. But I thought the way he travelled the last day, I thought, he was a major eye catcher in the race for me, the Dan Moore. Mike Vince, thoughts on the big handicap, first handicap at the
trying to weigh one up here. He did me a big favour because I tipped him strongly at Cheltenham in November. He hasn't run since. He's now back over fences, having won the Greatwood Hurdle. Step forward, the shunter. Versatile, but as they said about the man who was waiting to be made a bishop, long time no see. I think he may have much been saved for this in the end. So the shunter for me.
Yeah, interesting, because he did have that entry, of course, in the Dan Moore as well. Thomas Coyle, thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'd be a big fan of the shunter as well. Just one maybe at a bigger price. A Wave of the Sea for Joseph O'Brien was a Grade 1 winning juvenile. Simon Torrens up taking 5. He has a bit to find with Point Avon and Emily Moon, all right, but Simon Torrens 5 will bring that a bit closer, and if it's a good strong pace, he might be staying on. I think he only is 9 stone 12 and is back now with the claim, so he could be running on at the end to pick up the pieces. But the shunter would be my main pick. So I would.
We're delighted to feature jockey Jack Kennedy on the Champ.ie podcast ahead of the Dublin Racing Festival. Jack, let's start with Delta Work.
I wouldn't swap him for anything else in the race myself. He's in good form at home, and the small field shouldn't be a problem to him. And so, yeah, I'd be hoping that he can regain his title. That'd be great.
Smaller field this time around. How do you envisage tactics? He seems an uncomplicated horse.
He is, yeah. I'll be able to go down to the start, and whatever way the race is working out, I'll be able to ride him accordingly, because he used to be a very keen horse, but he's after relaxing an awful lot now. So yeah, it shouldn't, if it gets tactical, he shouldn't be too complicated to ride.
Yeah, the opening race of the Dublin Racing Festival this year, of course, you ride Fakira for Gordon, and you know, you could have a match-up with your brother Paddy, who's also been on the Champ.ie podcast. A bit of a match-up there. He rides Ashdale Bob.
Yeah, the last time they met was in grade 2 in Navan, and I suppose the race didn't really suit my lad a whole lot. We went steady, and I got into a bad position on him, and he ended up flying home. Ashdale Bob was a very good winner that day, and then he went on and fell in mates. So I suppose, yeah, we probably looked like we could be two that maybe might be fighting it out. So it'll be brilliant for the two of us if that was the case.
And Manny mentioned, you know, Fakira as a potential Albert Bartlett type. Would you share that view? He looks like the further he goes, the better he is.
Yeah, without a doubt. I got beat over 2.5 in Navan when flying home. So definitely, 3 miles will be his trip, and he stays very well, obviously. So yeah, he looks to be a nice type of horse for a race like that. Yeah.
And Abacadabras, of course, won the Margiana at Punchestown before. I suppose he disappointed at Christmas. We mentioned Gordon's horses did scope bad. Have you faith that we'll see a different horse? What's he working like at home, Jack?
Keith Dunne rode him work the other day and was very happy with him. Obviously, it was very disappointing at Christmas, as were a lot of Gordon's horses. But the one thing I took out of the race was how well he jumped. I think he only might have made one slight mistake the whole way around. So he looks brushed up in his jumping, which needed to happen. So if he can jump like that and is back to himself, he should be thereabouts with the help of God.
And Gordon, of course, is chemical energy in the bumper. He's a horse I believe you guys like a lot as well.
He is, yeah. He's a very exciting horse. So hopefully he'll have to keep improving to prove himself as a proper horse. But we have plenty of faith in him anyway. So hopefully he can do that.
We'll come on to a couple of questions from Twitter later on, but Junes asks, how would he compare as a type of horse now to Sir Gerhard, who I think the plan is to go straight to Cheltenham with him?
Yeah, to be honest, I wouldn't have a lot to do with their work or anything, but they're both very exciting horses, but they're, like I said, they'll have to keep building on what they've done to be proper horses someday. Yeah,
absolutely. And Ballyadam, ahead of his rematch with Appreciated, does he show a lot at home, Jack?
He kind of only does what he has to do, but he works. He does most of his work with Abracadabras. So they're similar sort of horses, and they work well together. But he only really has to do. He only does what he has to do. So yeah, he's back in good form again now. Anyway.
You don't feel Appreciated?
I'd be hopeful that we can reverse the form at no point at all during the race. The last day, was I ever happy on him? He normally travels very well. He wasn't doing that the last day, but suppose with the ground being heavy as well, might just be a little concerned for him. But I'd be hoping that he could get a lot closer, if not reverse the form. Would appreciate it, yeah.
And he's one, I presume, looking towards the Cheltenham Festival. You guys, you definitely think he's that class to be in the likes of a Supreme Novices Hurdle.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's a very good horse. So he's held in high regard. So he would definitely be a supreme horse. Yeah.
And sticking with Cheveley Park as Quilixios, if I've pronounced that right, goes into spring juvenile, Jack. And you've rode both him and Zana here to victory. Are they different types of horses, and how?
Yeah, I suppose they are two different types of horses. I suppose I know a bit more about Zana here than I do of Quilixios. I've only ridden him once. I went in Down Royal. I went out and made the running on him, and probably didn't go that quick throughout the race, and he quickened up well down the straight. So he's a quick horse, and I think he'll stay as well. And I suppose Zana here, I think might just edge it over him. But I suppose we'll learn a lot. We'll learn a lot at the weekend with the form of Joseph O'Brien's horse that was second to Zana here at Christmas. So we'll learn plenty at the weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned Zana here, and he did come from Michael Halford's on the flat. Won over a mile and a half, was lightly raced, Jack. I thought he done well the last day to win. I suppose it looked like he went a slow pace. What was your commentary on that?
Yeah, same as that. I thought we went very steady, and the fact that it really didn't suit him, and the fact that he won is just a sign of how good he is. So, like every horse, he's going to have to build on that as well. But he's gone straight to Cheltenham, so it'll be interesting to see what way Quilixios fares out with Joseph O'Brien's horse at the weekend. Yeah, we get a bit of a reading off that.
Would you say jumping is probably one of his main strengths?
Yeah, without a doubt. Touchwood, he's a very sound jumper, and he's long, shorter, spot on. He's extremely quick through the air. So yeah, that would be one of his best assets. Yeah.
We must mention Envoi Allen, because obviously one at Punchestown. Gordon mentioned afterwards that you guys spoke and maybe potentially be up on his work in the coming weeks. Did he take a good blow at Punchestown again, or what was the thoughts behind that?
Yeah, I know it was his first run on heavy ground, but he was obviously very impressive, but he had a bit of a blow at me, and I just thought that maybe he could be a bit fitter. So yeah, I said it to Gordon, and obviously the rest is left up to him after that. That was just my opinion. So it was great.
How has he been since, Jack?
He's good. Yeah, I think I've sat in him once maybe since Punchestown. Keith rides him every day at home. So he's in great out order. So it's great. He's very exciting. Absolutely.
And one horse I wanted to ask you about was Fairclass, Jack, and he ran nicely when finishing third behind Castlebawn West at Christmas at Leopardstown, and he's entered the 2.5 mile I see on Sunday. Could there be a big pot in him somewhere along the way?
Definitely, yeah. I was very impressed with his run in the Paddy Power, and I was thinking that maybe he might be the horse to ride in the TSs then, but Gordon decided to bypass that with the way the ground was, and go to Leopardstown for the 2-5 race. So I think he'd be an exciting ride in that, yeah.
Absolutely. You rode last weekend, just quickly flashing back to Grand Juan, Ascaria 10. I thought the two of them ran two solid races. and you'd have to think that they could get their heads in the winner's enclosure at some stage this season also.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Maybe a Scary 10 might be a nice horse for the 4 miler in Cheltenham or something. But yeah, he jumps and stays well. So obviously all them things are up to Gordon. But I could see him running well in something like that. Yeah.
And Grand Raw.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably a nice pot in him somewhere along the way as well. I was very happy with his run the last day. So yeah, he's a grand horse as well.
Couple of questions from Twitter, Jack. Jack Twyble asks, what horse are you most looking forward to riding this weekend?
I suppose it'd have to be Doyle to work. I'm really looking forward to getting back on him after missing out on the spin on him at Christmas. So yeah, I'm probably looking forward to him the most.
What's your feeling on Felix Stagey? Can he bounce back to his full potential in your eyes? That comes in from Collie O'Brien.
Yeah, I think I can. Obviously, I suppose he's probably one of the horses as well that didn't run to his best over Christmas, and it was a funny sort of a race as well. So yeah, I can definitely see him bouncing back. Yeah, hopefully with the help of God.
And Alan McInerney asks about wide receiver. I know you have rode him this season. He is entered up at the weekend. Are we likely to see him, Jack? And do you like him?
Yeah, he's in a couple of different races, so I'm not sure what one he'll go for yet. Yeah, he's a nice horse. I suppose it took a while maybe to get the hang of him, but winning the maiden hurdle in Leopardstown, then jumping out and letting him roll probably seemed to be the way to ride him. So yeah, he was very good that day. He's a nice horse.
The Kennedy brothers are no strangers now to the podcast. I want to wish you the very best of luck this weekend for Delta work, of course, and the big one, and obviously for the rest of the season.
Thanks a million.
Thomas Coyle, you were a big Abacadabras fan last year, and speaking to Jack there, he mentioned obviously the ground to be a slight concern. Gordon's horses weren't right, I suppose, at Christmas. He's expecting a better showing. But if you were to say that he'd be 8-1 for the Irish Champion Hurdle after the Supreme Novice Hurdle performance last year, which I think was on soft ground as well, you'd probably say that that's a pretty big price, would you?
You would, yeah. But as you said, the ground would be a worry. Yeah, I don't know. Just the bubble has kind of slightly burst, even with me, for that horse for the minute. He'd want to go out and do something now, because even winning the Morgiana in Punchestown, he wasn't that impressive. And getting beat by Aspire Tower first time out as well. I don't know. He has to go and win something like this for me to get excited about him again, to be honest. It's an interesting race. Look, for Irish racing, everyone wants to see Honeysuckle win. But just when I was going through it, personally, I think Sharjah's form is probably a little bit better on his last run, going that Ronald Pump got so close to Honeysuckle in Fairyhouse, where Sharjah beat, I know, Aspire Tower in Leopardstown the last time, and look, he was visually impressive enough. Just going back to 2 mile, I just think that Sharjah at the minute probably has a little bit stronger form. Patrick gets on well with him. It will be an interesting race. You can imagine that he'll stalk her. Rachel will have to make, she stays, so she'll make plenty of use of Honeysuckle, and Patrick will stalk and coming down to the last. So you can imagine it'll be the two of them pulling clear. But I just think tactically Sharjah might just have a little bit more pace, and although I want to see Honeysuckle win, but I think Sharjah is going to be high.
I actually agree with you, Tom. I think there's a possibility. I think he had 17 runs over hurdles, Sharjah. Doesn't have the most typical profile going into he's had 18 runs in total over hurdles. So it's hard to believe he might be still improving. But I thought, a question mark for Sharjah over the last couple of years was, was he as good on soft ground? He's proven that now. And, you know, coming in here, I think there's a potential that he may still be improving.
Yeah,
And,
look,
you know,
he likes Leopardstown as well. Like he nearly leaves his best running for Leopardstown as well. So, yeah, look, he ticked a lot of the boxes for this, you know.
it was pointed out to me, even though he likes Leopardstown, he has disappointed at this particular meeting in the past. And like Honeysuckle, she didn't blow us away in the Hatton's Grace. You probably didn't really expect her to. She hadn't had a run previous, and she was always going to improve from this. I just think it's a hot little race there, to be honest, guys, because I think obviously there's the 6 runners. You'd expect it to be in the Irish Champion Hurdle, but the 6 runners, but you could make a case for nearly 5 of them here anyway. To win the actual race. But Ronan, the key question is, because we were asking it all of last year, if Honeysuckle wins, will they go to the Champion Hurdle?
Well, they've said they'll go. That news kind of came out today. I think of all being well, they're going to have a crack at it this year. I think she'll have to go and win here for them to do it. That's what they're kind of saying. So, yeah, 1 year too late for me. But I hope she wins as well. And I'd be more positive about her than Thomas was kind of letting on there. I think she, a lot of people are pointing to the Fairy House run. She wasn't too impressive, but that was her first run of the season, and that race turned into a sprint in the straight. They fairly just belted on after when they came into the straight there, and I actually think she did quite well to not get beaten in that kind of circumstance.
But just on that one, a bit of a sprint, but look where Ronald Pump came from to catch her. You know, like he's no merchant. He's going to go for the stairs, like, you know.
I just don't. Yeah, I that's a good point. I just don't trust kind of slowly run races. I think the form can just look silly after a while. And yeah, look, it's Sharjah is back at Leopardstown, and he disappointed in this race last season. I think WIllieMullins was saying he belted a hurdle kind of coming out the back straight there, and that's why he disappointed. And it'll be a good race. There's very little between them on ratings, even when you take in the £7 allowance. No, there's only £2 in the difference. And I think another key thing to Honeysuckle is they're pretty confident they have her jumping a bit better now, which was always kind of a chink in her armour. She was kind of jumps, kind of only really gets from A to B, and she nearly threw this race away last season when she kind of jinked to her left, and but still had enough guts to go out on and win again. I think I'd still have her marginal favourite now, to be honest. And I will give it.
Would you back her at 5-4? Would you back her at 5-4? I think is that best price available?
No. I probably won't have a bet in the race, but I will give a positive mention to Abacadabras. I actually think, as opposed to Saint Ra, who I thought gave his running at Christmas, and I just don't think Saint Ra is that good. I mean, people were getting excited about him when he won a county hurdle off 137, and Willie was saying that they were disappointed, and I think he's better than he was at Christmas. I'm not sure he was. I think that was just his running, but I think Abacadabras is much better than he showed at Christmas when he was 5th, and that makes a lot of sense because Gordon's horses were sick, and he reported that after the race. And when you look at Abacadabras' form, it's pretty consistently good. You know, it's not like, obviously disappointed a few times, but he's still run second or gone close to winning. I think he'll be at his best maybe in a big field. He's such a strong traveller, and the Champion Hurdle will suit him better. But, you know, he probably he arguably has the best form in this race, you know, having finished second to Envoi Allen and Fairy House, and then second to Shishkin and Supreme. We haven't seen that Abacadabras yet so far this season, but if he could get back to that level, you know, the likes of 8-1, 9-1 is plenty big enough about him. So if you wanted to take that sort of chance, I did think that price was the only way into this race. But looking forward to seeing it anyway. Honeysuckle and Sharjah should be a cracker.
Right, Vince, it'd be rude not to ask you, I suppose, about the biggest race on Saturday's card at the Dublin Racing Festival. Flooring Porter, 22-1 in a Grade 1 at Leopardstown over Christmas, and first flow last week. I suppose we're going to have to ask you, are you going to back one of the bigger price here?
No.
Who wins it?
The rudeness has never stopped you in the past. The thing that I just can't get away from is Honeysuckle getting £7 from Sharjah in this ground. If it was level weights, I'd go Sharjah all the way. I just think that the £7 might just tip it Honeysuckle's way.
Brilliant.
But thank you for asking.
350 at Leopardstown, lads. It's the second handicap on the card, and one of the biggest handicap races at the at the Dublin Racing Festival. The Labrooks Hurdle, 2 miles, Grade B, over 2 miles for 4-year-olds. And plus, the favourite in here, lads, is Advanced Virgo for that man Charles Burns, 6-1. My Glass Flyer for Joseph O'Brien, 7-1. Drop the Anchor, Pat Fahey, was well backed, I know, the last day at 9-1 in here. Esky Lane, interesting. Dennis O'Regan takes the ride for Gordon Elliott. I quite like him, I'm not sure. Would he want further than 2 miles? He's a 9-1 chance. Sail the Nage, 10-1. Blue Sari, very interesting, coming back after a 370-day absence. 12-1. Front View, 12-1. He's hardly broke or bloke. 12-1. Uradal is a 12-1 chance. Build Me Up Buttercup, 14-1. Stratham, 14-1. Champagne Gold, 16-1. Gabby Nacco, 16-1. Golden Jewel, 16-1, and it's 20-1 the rest. Thomas Coyle will come to you because Eddie Cawley, Golden Jewel, he ran over fences last time but ran a cracker behind Cade Boy, who hasn't been declared for this, up at Down Royal, and a good stiff 2 miles, soft ground. Is this exactly what Golden Jewel wants? 16-1?
Yeah, look, he was second in this race last year and he was very unlucky. He was 11th jumping the last hurdle and just didn't get there. Another one of Charles Burns beat him. Look, his form ties in perfectly with the favourite. Advanced Virgo, Beck had Cade Boy in Fairyhouse the last day. He's got £10 for that win. So, look, there's not a whole lot. He was probably, look, I know he was second the last day, but I'd actually put a line through it. The ground was horrible in Clonmel the last day, and it probably just didn't suit him. It was energy sapping. But look, from what I've heard from the boys, he's in good form. Just an interesting one for you. We were watching declarations all morning for this because he was 3 on the ballot, and it was with 90 seconds to go. You want to see how many times it changed, what was getting in, what was getting out. And it ends up that JP McManus squeaks in at the bottom, and he's gone from 12s into 7s already. There was a lot of horses being pulled out to get horses in or whatever, but the My Glass Flyer has sneaked in, and the money's come already for him. So for me, just watching it this morning, it was very interesting to see what was going to happen. He's the last one to get in, so he was 4 on the ballot. He sneaks in. So to me, his run the last day, 3rd in the handicap, I think he came from the back. He was probably lucky. He was staying on well. Mark Welch now takes the ride from JJ Slevin. So for me, just looking at that, I think he's going to be hard bet.
Interesting. Mike, Vince, thoughts on this one? Charles Burns, favourite. Labrooks Hurdle, thoughts?
He's won all 3 runnings of it, hasn't he? Since the Dublin Racing Festival started, because Off You Go won it twice, and then Those Days Are Gone won it last year. And this horse did everything right at Fairyhouse. And the question is whether Sandy Shaw's clobbered him enough to stop improving. He's going to have to improve, but he's not been seen since, and he's had just the 1 run. And as Charles laid yet another one out for this, I wouldn't rule it out by any manner of means. The one that fascinates me here, totally fascinates me, because I saw it running in a bumper in October. It's only from you go from a bumper to a fiercely competitive handicap hurdle in 3 months. Is Noel Mead's horse, number 11. He's a hardy bloke. Has won a couple of novice races, makes his handicap debut in this. I think he might be knocking good each way back, because I don't think because his other one runner, Jesse Evans, is a reserve. I just think he's a hardy bloke each way, making his handicap debut. They must know what they're doing, and he must have more to come. But you ignore Burns here at your peril. But he's a hardy bloke, probably a decent each way back.
Fascinating what Thomas is saying there, the My Glass Flyer and the horses coming out and things and that. That's really interesting, actually, because he just sneaks in, and Mark Walsh is riding him, and all the money has been from. And Mark Walsh obviously could have rode 5 or 6 here. So that is really interesting insight. He's only run 5 times. He's the son of Galileo. And he has good Leopardstown form. So, look, this could be a case that he ends up maybe half that price. This could be a big gamble. I wouldn't be hugely surprised. And the horses that I wanted to mention until Thomas said that were JP horses, other ones like Drop the Anchor. who I thought ran a huge race in the Advanced Virgo race at Fairyhouse. He actually got nearly brought down, and you can't actually see it properly because remember that at Fairyhouse they were trying out some stupid camera in a car, and they were coming into the straight, and you couldn't actually see what happened properly because the camera wasn't panned out, and he got absolutely belted. I'm pretty sure I dropped the anchor and then ran on again to finish third. He was well back before that race as well. Like Simon Torrance always rides him, so I'm not sure the whole kind of jockey booking thing, whether it's significant with him because Simon Torrance has rode him for the last few times anyway, and he takes £5 off. And Front View was the other one, Barry. Just wanted to give a quick mention to. Like he was backed off the boards festival last season. Won his chase quite well at Fairyhouse and then unseated in the Daily Tiger race. So I think they're just going to run him here over hurdles just to protect his mark, maybe going into Cheltenham. Hopefully he sneaks into something in the chase at Cheltenham, but means they can go ahead and let him run his race here if he can kind of come back over hurdles and be as good as he was last season. But the money for him pre-Cheltenham last season, just going into that race, I think it was the Martin Pipe, was hugely significant. So it wouldn't be a huge surprise, I think, if he ran a big one here.
The one that interests me is and Mike Vince. I'm surprised that you haven't mentioned him because I know you're a big Gavin Cromwell fan, but Gabby Nacco back to 2 miles, first time in a handicap. I think we could be looking at Bob Ollinger for the Ballymore potentially on Saturday afternoon, in the form of the race at Naas has been franked because listen, this Gabby Nacco off 138, I think he could be well handicapped. He's carrying 11 stone 3 in here. He's early season form. He's had the 5 runs over hurdles, so he has experience. And look, what's that?
This would be a different ball game for him though. Like 22 runners. There's Argy Bargy. I know he's running in good races, but run 5, 6, 7 runner races, and I know you say they can look well handicapped, but to especially go into a good graded handicap, you have to be very battle hardened. I think that I definitely think he's a chance, but that would be my one little worry about that horse.
Yeah. He's plenty of weight to carry, I suppose, as well. But I just liked him, Tom. I thought it was interesting to go here and back to 2 miles. I think he travels strongly in his races, and some of the horses that we're looking at for some of the grade ones in Cheltenham wasn't too far behind him. So I just think I get what you're saying. He has to overcome coming into a much bigger field here. But I thought he was interesting at 16-1. That's Gabby Nacco in obviously a very hot race. Lads, let's come on to the 225 at Leopardstown. It's the big bumper of the weekend, grade 2, and WIllieMullins could run 3 in here. Patrick Mullins is sided with Kilcrut. I'll give you a quick show of betting. So Kilcrut 7-4. Chemical Energy for Jamie Codd and Gordon Elliott is a 5-2 chance. Ramillies for WIllieMullins, and Barry O'Neill takes the ride there at 5-1. Noble Yates 6-1. Let's be clear about it, 7-1. What do you want for the Mulryans? Tom Hamilton takes the ride for WIllieMullins 20-1. Ever Present 33-1 for Jesse. The Banger Doyle, named after myself, Noel McParland takes the ride, 33-1, and Angers Krog. Thomas, bumper horses. We won't come to Ronan on this. He hates them. He hates bumpers. Kilcrut 7-4, 1 at Navan. Chemical Energy represents obviously Gordon Elliott. Is it a match between the two, or would you like anything at a bigger price? Is it a hot race?
Yeah. Look, it's kind of, what's the rule? Paddy in the bumper, isn't it? There was a lot of it there last week when he won actually on Emmett's horse that's in this race. Look, Kilcrut was very, very impressive. You couldn't take away from it. Gordon's horse, he beat the horse that was bet today in Down Royal on Eagle's Wings. That was at the Down Royal Racing Festival. That horse was well bet by a horse of Crawford's today. The name's not coming to me. La Chanteuse or well bet. But I just Emmett's horse in Clonmel the last day. I think Derek O'Connor rides it, but if you actually watch him, I know he went handy, but the ground was horrible that day. But he's actually picked up when Patrick has asked him. He's picked up all the way to the line. It takes a good horse to do that now on ground like that around Clonmel.
Would you go about a 10-day turnaround for him? Because I know you like to give horses at least 3 weeks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's kind of going against my rule, all right. But yeah, but look, I'd be looking at him for more of an each way thing because look, you can't really look past the favourite in this with Patrick and Willie. You know, they have so many horses that they have that they could have lined up for this, and he's the one they've gone for. And look, it's probably the safest bet of the weekend, so I'd stick with him.
Would Ronan Groome would we won't ask you what you think about the race, but would Patrick not get the Christmas card off Granny if he picked Ramillies in here?
Maybe. Willie was saying he loves Kilcruit anyway. On the press conference this week, so that sounded like he was going to ride that horse then. But Willie gave quite a positive mention to Ramillies. He said he ran huge at Christmas, so I don't know. That could be interesting as well. Just because Patrick's riding one, like it might have been a tough decision for him, you know. So I wouldn't read a huge amount into it, and be interesting to see if the money comes for the other Mullins horse.
That's the one I like, Ronan. I like Ramillies. I think the two of them are two good horses, but I just like the way he done it at Christmas, course and distance. Yeah, Barry O'Neill, of course, a good booking as well. And as you said, it mightn't be much between them, but I'm going to stick with my gut. I do like Ramillies. I like the way he done it. As you said, Willie did give a very positive mention after the race. Mike, Vince, had you thoughts on the bumper?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's also, let's remember that, of course, Kilcruit is bred by Patrick's grandmother, and he was desperately, always said he wanted to ride a winner for her at Cheltenham, and obviously she's not going to be able to travel to Cheltenham. But I actually share your view about Ramillies. I really liked it at Leopardstown, and the other one I give a chance to here. And interesting that Patrick's ridden the horse in all 3 races, but he can't ride it, obviously, because he's riding for his dad, is the Gavin Cromwell horse, namely, let's be clear about it. And Sir Gerhard is the only horse that's beaten him, Sir Gerard, this year in 3 starts. And I think he's improving a lot. And I think he might, because of all the interest in the Mullins and Elliott runners, Finney Maguire's a good booking for me. I think he might drift and he might suddenly become decidedly eachy-wazy here. But I think Ramillies, and let's be clear about it, of the two, I'd want to go forward in this. And maybe the banger Doyle. Is it named after you? I don't know. More banger than Doyle, I would think.
Just on Gavin's horse as well. I'm pretty sure I heard a big owner came in to buy it, but the person that owns it already, they own Panda Waste, and they had bought it already from Gavin's yard for a good sum of money, so they didn't want to part away because they wanted a horse for the Cheltenham bumper. So that's just interesting as well that they didn't part with him. So yeah, look, they obviously think a lot of him.
But Ramillies my pick, a strong pick. I really liked them at Christmas, and yeah, I think he might win here.